How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. Talked briefly before on how even though we are seeing a huge increase in the threat of a nuclear exchange of some kind due to ongoing tensions with Russia, I don't think that an outright nuclear attack is extremely likely, luckily. I do think that other forms of attack by Russia or others are much more likely due to the ability for them to do it a lot more surreptitiously, a lot more with a lot more surprise. And one of the things that I'm specifically focusing on in this is an EMP attack of some sort or even a cyber attack, but specifically an EMP attack. We just saw Russia launch a satellite into space recently, which certainly could be some kind of nuclear EMP device or even something that knocks out other satellites, but specifically EMP, we know that with one detonation, they could eliminate the electronics or destroy the electronic capabilities of a lot of different things all over the country or even large parts of the world. So I think if they were going to do some sort of attack, that would be one of the things that they would probably lean towards. And certainly North Korea might be willing to do something like that as well. And obviously that would be completely devastating, but there's a couple small things. I still think this is a low probability event, obviously, but it's something that if it happened, it would be so devastating that I think it's worth taking basic precautions like Faraday cages and stuff for some primary electronic devices that you aren't using constantly but would use definitely in the event of something like that. And one of the things that I've always thought about is if this always happened, I'm crazy prepper, so I'm always thinking about I'll be at a casino or something, and I'm thinking like, if there was an EMP right now, like what would be the main immediate effects? And the thing that I always keep coming back to mainly is that with electricity going off, all the lights would go off, obviously. And in the immediate short term of an event, that would be your most pressing issue. And, it's debatable in terms of how much solid state electronics, like a small flashlight, would be affected by an EMP, even a nuclear EMP. But you couldn't count on any electronics not being damaged 100%. Especially now, modern flashlights have circuitry in them to do the different light modes and things like that. So it's actually probably a basic battery wire bulb flashlight like you would get for $1 at the dollar store. It's probably less likely to be affected than a higher end flashlight with different modes and circuitry and an actual really small electronics, not solid state, that can be hurt. But you never want to take that chance. So I came up with a little to have in my car kit, which I pulled out for you guys, is a mini Faraday cage EMP kit. I already peeled off. I had tape around the edge here because that's the most important thing. If you watch EMP Doctor and some of these other channels, they talk about even a small hole in the conductive material isn't normally a problem, but the way these electromagnetic radiation travels, seams are the worst. Long, thin breaches is what allows the stuff to go in. So even on the seam in this tin, I taped over with conductive tape. And make sure that when you get, this is what you'll need. I'll put the link in the description. This is actually metal conductive tape. You don't just want to get foil. They might use that term to describe the color or the texture. You want the stuff that's actual metal and has conductive capabilities. Not too hard to find, but you just want to make sure. So I'll put the link in the description to that. And other than that, I just got a little aluminum tin. Actually, I'm not even sure if this is aluminum. But as long as it's conductive as well, then it'll work. I have a few different sizes that I was messing with. Whether the lid this one even has a secondary lid inside it. Whether the lid slides over the outside or nestles into it like this type that I'm using shouldn't matter as long as you cover those seams. These are kind of hard to find if you go to different types of, not like even like Uline and stuff. They're going to be expensive to get a one-off, but sometimes you can pay for a sample, and or unless you want to buy a bunch at once. But as long as it's conductive, and as long as you have that tape to cover that, it should work well. I also always put a glow stick. You can get these pretty cheap. These are just your basic. And keeping some of these in your car or anything to begin, you can't even see that it's working because they're not particularly bright, but having those on there so you can even see to get into this thing, because I went ahead, like I said, it's not that hard to get in, but you got to be able to see something. And if it's at night or you're in a building somewhere and the lights go out, you're not going to be able to see much of anything. So primarily, I have this, so you can just rip it off, break it, see what you're doing. And then inside, I have cardboard all along the inside to prevent any of the components from touching the metal. So I think that's important too. You can use styrofoam, you can use cardboard, you can use anything that's non-conductive, just so it doesn't actually make contact with the metal. Should prevent it from having any sort of ill effects. And inside here, like I see on the, I wrote on this so I don't have to peel it open every time to remember what's in it. Faraday tube, AAA batteries, headlamp, and flashlight. So this one is just light. You know, just a basic headlamp and flashlight with batteries. Nothing fancy. If you wanted to make one bigger than this, you could obviously include anything that you wanted. Communications equipment, small radio, watch, GPS, whatever. You know, although in an event of an EMP type attack, I doubt that GPS satellites would be functional, towers and whatnot. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys think, if you have done something similar. No one really knows exactly how well any of this stuff would work in a real EMP, or to what extent all these small electronics would even be damaged. But like I said, I think the ability to move around is pretty important in the event that all the electricity goes out. And the main thing that we're not used to is we always have some sort of light. So even if you're in a large building like a mall or something like that, you know, there's not going to, and you're hundreds of square feet, thousands of square feet inside, away from any windows, there's not going to be any light in there. Even most of these have emergency lighting that would come on in the event that power loss happens, but that still relies on, you know, the electronic components functioning properly. So if all that's damaged, then it could be completely pitch black. So even if you don't need the electronics, having a couple of the glow sticks, maybe even those tiny little like Halloween style wristband ones that you could put in an EDC kit or something, if that risk is higher, could at least allow you to, you know, see where you're going, find an exit, that sort of thing in the complete blackness. So like I said, link will be in the descriptions to some of these things like that, but specifically the tape. Let me know if you guys have anything similar made and what you would put inside yours. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out RuleTheWasteland.com, and I'll talk to you later.